Rishi Sunak's in a deepening diplomatic row after cancelling a meeting with the Greek Prime Minister at very short notice. The two PMs were due to meet earlier today to talk about migration and climate change, but Sunak pulled the plug after the Greek leader compared housing the Parthenon sculptures, also known as the Elgin Marbles, in the British Museum to cutting the Mona Lisa in half.
This is not, in my mind, an ownership question. This is a reunification argument. Where can you best appreciate what is essentially one monument? I mean, it's as if I told you that you would cut the Mona Lisa in half, and you would have half of it at the Louvre and half of it at the British Museum. Do you think your viewers would appreciate the beauty of the painting in such a way? Well, this is exactly what happened with the Parthenon sculptures, and that is why we keep lobbying for a deal that would essentially be a partnership between Greece and the British Museum.
Well, Downing Street subsequently scrapped the meeting, saying that the talks had been agreed on the basis that Greece would not publicly lobby for the return of the artefacts. But Greek sources have denied this. The Greek PM left the UK, but not before expressing his surprise and annoyance at Sunak's snub. Wow. I mean, this is extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, put the way he did about cutting the Mona Lisa in half, it's a pretty good analogy. I mean, all of us are now picturing half of the Mona Lisa and thinking, yeah, you're completely right about that. That is patently ridiculous. And
it'd be a bit rubbish if you got the bottom bit, wouldn't it?
No, you've got to do it downward.
Vertical cutting. On the face of it, then, you know, you can absolutely sympathise with the case. These incredible sculptures sort of feel like they should be on the Parthenon, which they can't be now anyway, but that's where they came from. We basically took half of them. It's unbelievable that the row dates back to so many, it's centuries really, isn't it? Yeah. Nearly 200 years or something like that. The issue is, if we were to give them back, as it were, I fear it would open the floodgates to a whole load of other demands from other countries. We want this back, we want that back, you took this, you took that, you never... Show me the evidence that you know you have the right to have these bits and that bit. Where would it end?
And good. If yes,
Not
it would
good.
open the floodgate.
Why
It's 2023, let's give them back. We can't go round the world looting
No,
what
they
we
can't
want.
have them.
Well,
No. And yes,
It's as simple as that.
And it
Because
would
it's
open the
funny.
floodgates, and that's right. And we give things back.
so you just want the whole of the British Museum to be emptied out?
Well, it has been emptied out by thieves.
Well, look,
That's a very good point.
here's the thing.
Don't
The
think quite.
They didn't look after much
The
stuff there.
V&A has 2.7 million items in its possession, and in the last 20 years, they have only had 9 other countries come forward and say, we want our things back. 9 times, and they've got over 2 million. So it's not a thing of the floodgates got open.
It will be, though.
Yeah, but
Also,
we keep stuff in the
let
vaults
me add,
anyway. We don't display
here's
most of the
exactly.
stuff.
Britain, as a country, we have a committee set up by our government, to repatriate artworks that we think are intrinsically linked to British culture and heritage. That's what we do. We go around the world looking at pieces of art that we think belong to this country. How can we do that and say to Australia, no, that's ours, we want that back, here's some money, but we're going to say to Greece,
that makes
no,
sense.
you can't have yours back.
That makes sense. Can I just say, and it is worth mentioning this, because I went to the Louvre in Paris. Not that
Mr. Culture.
You've already done a bit of Louvre. Come on.
Did you go in Paris?
No, I got stuck behind what I can only describe as a group of Russians, and I can only describe it as it was a kind of a pre-Weight Watchers trip. This was a very large group of people.
They were fat.
And I was behind these people, so I know what half the Mona Lisa looks like. So
You're on your way to cut it in half.
I was. Is that it? I've got a shoulder there, and it was quite entertaining, frankly. So I think the Greek PM is onto something with that point. But I don't actually think anybody gives a monkeys about this, do they?
Exactly
I don't honestly think
I want to
anybody
speak on
really
behalf
cares.
of millions and millions of Brits about the Elgin Marbles. I couldn't give a damn. What I find strange about this, I mean, have them back, don't have them back, but I think we should keep them because it's kind of funny.
Do you know the greatest revelation?
Because it annoys the Greeks. But, what I find very strange about this, you know, Rishi Sunak, a man to whom we always think, for God's sake, show some resolve.
be tough
But
about
now he does
one
it with
thing.
this.
And he chooses this
know.
hill to die on.
To die
The
on.
Elgin Marbles. Most people in Britain don't even know what they are. This
No,
is a waste of time.
I do agree with that. I think if we talk for a second about the diplomacy of this, it is ridiculous. Come on, Rishi, to cancel a meeting. The guy's come over. He was quite entertaining on that TV show that we showed the clip from. I thought he was very measured about a number of other things. We need the Greeks as allies. They are one of the few other NATO member states that actually pays their dues. Why? Because they've got so many islands. They're vulnerable in so many, strategically, they're vulnerable in so many different ways. They've got a massive issue with illegal migration.
Yep.
We need to work with the Greeks.
That's what made it the strangest thing, was the fact that
Let's
the
not just blow
commonality
it up,
of
you
all
know.
countries, we're trying to sort a migration problem. Greece, of all places,
in
in Europe, is the most sort of fundamental area in that respect. So that was a little bit weird. And the idea that Rishi Sunak wouldn't meet the Greeks... The Greeks have never changed their position on these marbles.
No.
They've been... Which, by the way,
And
they're not actual marbles, for those...
They're not marbles.
Because a lot of people think they're marbles. They're not marbles, all right? It's not a little bag that you just carry around with you and go, have my marbles. It's not that. But the point is, you're right, to die
Really?
on that particular...
Now you tell me. Now you tell me.
On a dobber
I've been
inside.
getting this argument wrong
To
for
have
years.
that, to make that row over something like this, and
It's
then allow
pathetic.
Keir Starmer to...
And Keir Starmer got his photo, and he looked like a leader for the first time ever.
By
He
the
looked
way,
quite
if you
prime
were-
ministerial.
If you were a political advisor, one of Rishi's political advisors, you'd say, look, don't get involved in a row about
Over
the
the
Elgin
Elgin
Marbles, because the
Marbles.
headlines tomorrow will all be about you losing your marbles. I mean, it's basic politics.
Yeah.
And to die on this hill, it was so ridiculous. I don't know what goes on in that
It
guy's
is, but
head.
they're the Pantheon marbles. They're not the Elgin marbles.
Oh, shut
They're the
up.
Pantheon marbles.